This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss all the news in the world of sports. My name is Ben.
And I'm Anthony.
We're back here on a Friday, leading you into the weekend. I'm really, really excited. Anthony, today tickets go on sale for WWE Payback in San Jose. It is the first pay-per-view after WrestleMania, and I am for sure buying tickets today.
I didn't know it was in San Jose.
Yeah, SAP Center where the Sharks play. So
okay, that's not bad.
April 30th, I believe.
And that's SmackDown, yeah? That's
no,
SmackDown
it's a
centric?
Raw brand. It's a Raw one. So
okay.
I'm definitely a bigger fan of the Raw than the SmackDown. I like them both, but so I am for sure going to get tickets today.
I'm actually kind of down to do that too. A couple of my buddies are probably going to go, yeah, actually, that sounds like a good idea. I didn't even know they went on sale today. Yeah. It's probably.
I found out yesterday. So I made go on sale today, 10 p.m. or 10 a.m., I'm sorry. So
right.
like 3 hours from now?
Right.
So I am definitely going to be going to that and get tickets today. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Got a few hours left. I've been kind of scoping out where I want to sit. Obviously, I don't want to be too far away, but I don't want to be too close where I'm having to spend my life savings.
Right.
So I got a good idea of where I want to sit and money-wise, so I'm definitely excited to go, and I really am looking forward to that. But nevertheless, we are just recording today before the weekend. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk a lot of basketball, a lot of NBA talk. We had a really disappointing trade deadline yesterday, which I feel like happens all the time. We kind of hype it up. We hear all these names that are possibly getting dealt and rumors out there, and they all just kind of disappoint, never happen. But we'll save that for the second segment of the show, because this was the first night in the NBA since the All-Star break. Obviously, I guess you can say the biggest trade this season was the Demarcus Cousins trade on Sunday.
Right.
Because yesterday we didn't have much. I mean, the biggest guy dealt was really Nerlens Noel, no pun intended, because he's like 7 foot tall.
Right.
So it was the start of the Demarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis era in New Orleans. We'll talk about how they played last night against Houston. The Kings against the Nuggets, the new start for the Kings without Demarcus Cousins. And then the Warriors just did something. I don't know what else to say about the Warriors. It seems like every single night they do something heroic and historic, and yet again they did something last night. So let's start with Boogie Cousins and Anthony Davis combined. Well, if one game is an implicator, then things are not going to really go well.
No.
Because the Pelicans lost by 30 to the Houston Rockets, 129-99. DeMarcus Cousins played really, really well. He played 35 minutes. He had 27 points, 11 of 19 from the field, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 steals, 4 blocks. He did get into a little bit of a scuffle with Nene. Didn't get any technical fouls, though, so I guess that's a start. I mean, a step in the right direction.
Progress.
Anthony Davis also chipped in with 29 points. He didn't really shoot well from the floor. He shot 8 of 21. He had 9 rebounds, a couple of blocks himself. But the problem was that literally nobody else on this whole entire team scored. Their third highest scorer was Omri Caspi, who came over in the trade with DeMarcus Cousins. He had 12 points off the bench, was 5 of 9 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. And then he went and broke his thumb in the hand, so he's going to miss some time now.
Yeah.
The rest of the starters had a combined 15 points. I mean, they need to build definitely a team around him. One game, it's only one game. I'm not going to get too amped up about it. I mean, in the first meeting, the Rockets won by 22 over the Pelicans. And this is the Houston Rockets. I mean, they made a nice little trade themselves near the deadline, bringing in Lou Williams.
Right.
He led the team in scoring last night. He had 27 points in his first game for Houston. He shot 7 of 11 from 3, 9 of 16 from the floor. I felt like that was a great bring-in for Houston to try and push forward, get another scorer off the bench. Eric Gordon had 19, and Lou Williams had 27. So combined, they had 46 points off the bench. They're like basically co-6 men now.
Right.
And that could be a great addition for Houston as they push towards the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the whole team Well, it's not just that. Like, yeah, so Boogie and Davis were the only ones that could do anything. Also mixing the fact of the Rockets is kind of what they do. They shot 51 threes, and they made 20 of them. So if they do that, it's basically you're going to lose most of the games against them if they do that. Even the Warriors, like, you'll probably lose some games if you play them and they're making 20 of 51. Like, that's kind of their system. Their system is basically like, we're going to drive to the basket, and if we can't get a good layup or a dunk, we're going to kick it out to Eric Gordon, Lou Williams, James Harden, like whoever's kind of in the corner, and we're going to play that style, kind of like the 7 seconds or less mixed with a whole bunch of threes. It's kind of the way the Rockets play, and the Pelicans don't have anything to match that. Like, they don't have those players. They did last year when they had Ryan Anderson. That was someone who could do that, but he's gone. Eric Gordon was on the team. He's gone. So, like, the team is basically just Boogie and Anthony Davis. And while that's nice for the two of them, because basically they both had double-doubles, almost, like Anthony Davis had 29 and 9, but, you know, you basically almost had like 30 and 10 between the both of them, right? So that's good for them, but everybody else, you know, Drew Holiday, you know, Cunningham. God, this team is so bad. Monty Eunice, like, the team is so bad around him. Like, there's nothing you can really do.
Yeah, they have to definitely build for the future, and it's only one game.
Sure, yeah, that too.
I'm not going to buy in too much now, but I think if they can get people around them, because they're going to have to get shooters around them, and Caspi showed that a little bit last night with 12 points, made a few three-pointers, but then he got injured, so he's going to be out some time now. But then you just get guys around them because you literally can't double both of them. You can only double one of them at a time, so that leaves a man wide open. And I feel like Cousins is going to be more of that post player now, and Davis will be the one that kind of stretches the floor a little bit. Although they can both do that, Cousins is a lot bigger physically.
Sure.
So I feel like he'll be more of that bruiser inside, while Davis will maybe work in like mid-range wise. So it's only one game. We'll have to see how things go. But
you said you can't double team them both because you'll leave someone wide open. I mean, the starters outside of those two want to combine 6 of 22. So I mean, maybe you can. Maybe you can just say, like, yeah, if you make the shot, congratulations to you.
4 men on 2 guys, and the other...
Another one guy just runs around. Open. He just, like, runs around, like, they throw it all the way over to, like, each one more. He's like, okay, I'm going to get him, and then they pass Drew Holiday. That one man's still just like, okay, I'm going to get you now. He's just, like, running around the whole court while the other 2 guys just like, I got them.
And this was the worst loss of Demarcus Cousins' season. Kings did not lose by 30 any games he was in Sacramento.
Right.
So if one night is an indicator, it was a great trade because the Kings, on their part, played really well against the Denver Nuggets last night. The Kings pick up a 116-100 victory over the Denver Nuggets, a team they're technically chasing for that number 8 seed in the West. They're only a half a game back now. You look at some of the contributors. They brought in Buddy Hield. He had 16 points off the bench last night. He shot 6 of 10 from the floor. And some guys they're going to really expect to step up, one of them being Willie Cauley-Stein. He had really his best game of his NBA career last night. He had 29 points, 10 rebounds. He shot 14 of 22 from the floor. He played really, really well and looked kind of smooth. It's almost like it's only one game, and I watched the game because I wanted to see how the Kings would do without Boogie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only one game, so I'm not going to buy in too much. But it seems like he almost had kind of a monkey off of his back because he knows now that they're going to expect a lot of minutes and a lot of contributions from him. And there's really nowhere else they could go. I mean, they have Kosta Koufis. He only played 21 minutes. They do have Skal Labissiere, the rookie from Kentucky. He played well last night as well, a guy who's going to have to contribute. He had 12 points in 14 minutes. And then there's Georgios Papagiannis, the rookie from Greece. He didn't even play last night. So it's really like Cauley-Stein's team as far as the big men are concerned. So it seemed like he played a lot more loose and relaxed because he knows he's going to get a lot of minutes simply because there's no one else there.
It's like the weirdest thing because, like, I love Jaeger as a coach. I think Dave Jaeger's a really good coach. He did well with the Grizzlies after basically inheriting a team that was making it to the playoffs. He kept it going and did a good job with them. So now you come over to Sacramento and not the same thing. Grizzlies are a well-run organization. The Kings, I mean, we've seen how that's gone over the last few years. But I think he's doing a really good job. The problem is, okay, you traded Boogie. Rudy Gay's hurt. He's done for the year. You basically have no star power on the team. Like, you have some good players, but you don't have anybody that's anybody close to a star. The goal would be to start losing because even the way the Kings draft pick works is basically like, even if they get the number 1 overall pick and Philly gets the number 5 overall pick, Philly can swap with them. So then Philly gets the number 1 overall pick. So they literally can't get the number 1 overall pick. So the best they can do is number 2 overall pick. And if it goes past the 10th overall pick, 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever, Then it goes to Chicago. So making the playoffs, even if you're the 8th seed, while that sounds nice and it's like, yay, we get to, be in the playoffs for the first time since 06, you're also going to get your head caved in by the Warriors in 4 games, so have fun with that. So you probably would want to lose. But yet, Cousins gets traded. They lose by 30. They lose Cousins. They win by 16. It doesn't make much, and also it's like 1 game, so that part doesn't really matter as much. Give it like 5, 6, 7, 10 games, then all of a sudden we'll see how they're doing. But at least for this game, Cauley-Stein looked pretty good. Buddy Hield looked good. You had Tyreek Evans back in Sacramento. He looked fine. It had remnants of okay, this is like a decent enough team. But, now going forward, you got to kind of figure out who's going to do what because, like I said, Rudy's gone. Demarcus is done. That's a lot of shots for everybody else, and you got to figure out who does what because I don't think Cauley-Stein will have anywhere close to 29-10 for the rest of the season. I don't think he scores 29 points the next 3 games combined.
Yeah, I don't think that happens again. He did play really well last night, but he's not a guy that's going to constantly put up 20 points. I mean, he didn't even do that in college.
Right.
With Cauley-Stein, you really know what you're getting from the guy. He reminds me a lot of Joakim Noah in this instance.
Mm-hmm.
Gets a lot of hustle points, rebounds, plays defense. But, I mean, like I said, he played a lot more free and loose last night. I feel like that was because he knows now that there's no one else there that's really going to take solid minutes from him. No disrespect to Papagiannis or Scalabissier or even Costa Koufis, but I mean, Willie Cauley-Stein is the best big man on this team now, and he knows he's going to have to play a lot. He came off the bench last night, and he played 35 minutes. That was the most of anyone on the whole entire team. So he seems more free and loose, and I guess that might be a good thing. You could tell in the crowd last night that I'd say probably a majority of them were not really happy with the decision to trade Demarcus Cousins because this was the first game since the trade,
right.
And it was at home. I saw one fan, he had a sign up, and it made me laugh. He said, I had a better sign 2 days ago. Basically throwing shade at Vlade Divac because he said he had a better trade 2 days ago. But if one game is an indicator, things are going good for Sacramento, not so good for New Orleans. And then in the other game last night in the NBA, one of the big headliners was the Golden State Warriors against the LA Clippers. The Golden State Warriors scored 49 points in the first half. In the third quarter alone, they scored 50. They win 123 to 113 over LA. They overcome a double-digit deficit. They're down by 16. They score 50 points in the third quarter, the 4th time in franchise history, the first time since 1989, which ironically the Warriors did 3 times in March of 1989, and they do it last night. I don't know what else to say about this team. Durant had 25, Steph Curry had 35, 20 of which were in that third quarter. I mean, I don't see how anyone stops them.
So you remember how I said basically that if the Warriors played the Rockets out, the Rockets scored 50 points or shot 53s and made 20 of them, basically it's going to be hard to stop them. Okay, well, the Warriors have another gear also. It's not even that they did that kind of we're going to shoot all these threes. They only, for the entirety of the game, shot 13 of them. So it's not like they, went gangbusters and made 35 threes, but they just 50 points at the start of the second half. It's got to be deflating in so many ways because if you're the Clippers, you have a hard time beating them regardless, right? It's always kind of one of those games where it's just they're close, but they can't put them away. And losing by 14 in the third quarter 24 in the third quarter, and you had the lead and everything's going well, and you're just all right, we're going to get this. This is going to be great. And just I remember because a buddy of mine's a really big Warrior fan, and he would always tell me that the third quarter is when they just hit a second gear. They just, for whatever reason, not every game obviously, but a lot of times they will just all of a sudden just come out of the half and just bomb threes, just rain threes. And we saw Steph basically end the quarter.
Yeah, he hit a buzzer beater to give them the 50
from points. 30 feet away,
that's
off
Steph
balance.
Range.
I understand that's Steph.
Ball range too.
Yeah, your boy.
You saw what happened to him the other night, right?
What?
I saw this last night. I don't know if the game was last night. I'll just make it quick.
Sure.
And then you can get back to the point. But he got crossed over and fell down.
Oh, no. Oh, it's your favorite.
Yeah.
You were so happy.
I wanted to tweet the emoji clapping hands, but I didn't do anything. So yeah, he's human after all. But anyways, go ahead.
You hate him so much. No, but I was just saying the Warriors, they're just a team that when they're in their groove, when they're in a gear, it doesn't matter who you are, man. It doesn't the Rockets, the Spurs, the Cavs, like, it doesn't matter who you are. They're just like the whole, like, oh, let's go small and let's shoot a bunch of threes. That's good for a handful of teams because they're getting better at it. But the Warriors are basically the cheat code for it. Like, they're the old NBA Jam where it's just like there's rain and fire from three and you can't stop them no matter how hard you try. Like, they just go and go and go and go. And it's almost like they're like now they've kind of like started to figure it out. You know what I mean? Because like start the year, they were kind of struggling a little bit here and there. They didn't know how to incorporate Kevin Durant. They lost Andrew Bogut. They lost Harrison Barnes. They lost all these people. Now they're kind of like a cohesive unit. They're kind of just like, okay, so we'll do this and we'll do this and we'll do this because Kevin Durant's still doing his thing. Steph Curry, every now and then when he's like, on fire, they're like, oh yeah, you go. When Klay Thompson's on fire, okay, cool, yeah, you go. Draymond Green, we're just going to have you kick everybody. That's your job basically on the team. It's just to, like, kick everybody and get into fights with random people just because you're mad that day. Like, they know what their job is.
It seems like they're really, really meshing well. And it's not just the offense. I mean, the defense is just really as good. I feel like Durant's really an underrated defender. Given his size and his length. He can cover the 3 or the 4. On the other side of the handle here, we have the Clippers. They got swept by the Warriors this season. The closest game was last night, 10 points. Chris Paul is medically cleared to return, although he did not play in this game. Probably won't play tonight against San Antonio either. But is it time to, like, blow them up? Because it seems like they've made every move to try and push in the West for the last 4 or 5 years, and it just has never worked out. They can't stay healthy. They just seem to be that team. That reminds me kind of like the Utah Jazz of the 90s.
Right.
And a little bit of the Oklahoma City Thunder a little bit. It's like that team that...
The Suns back in the mid-2000s, yeah.
Exactly. Like, gets there, but never, like, gets over the hump.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a weird situation with them because 3 of their players are 3 of the best, 15, 20 players in the NBA, depending on what you want to put DeAndre Jordan as. They're so talented with those 3. And even JJ's super important on that team to get threes.
They're so deep on the bench, too. I mean, you're bringing in guys like Jamal Crawford. Maurice Spates can contribute good minutes. Brandon Bass has been a good big man in the past. Raymond Felton's okay.
Yeah, like your defense is pretty good, too. Like, it's not like the team doesn't have talent all around. Problem is, they have never, in the entirety, basically, of their... Lob City or whatever you want to call it now, tenure, they've never had a good small forward, like ever. Like they've always kind of like mixed and matched it with, they had Paul Pierce now, Luke Mbah-a-Moute. Like they've always kind of just pieced it together to try and like do this or that, and it's never worked because basically when it comes down to it, you got to face Kawhi or you got to face LeBron or you got to face some, small forward that's going to just light it up every single time. And as good as JJ is, defensively, he's not that. Chris Paul is 6 feet tall. He can't do that. And Blake Griffin can't keep up with the people. So you can throw lobs to Blake. You can throw lobs to DeAndre. And Chris Paul's the best point guard of this generation. But they just were like, I don't know if I told you this or I told somebody else this, but it's basically like the fighter who can beat everybody to get to that title fight. They just can't win when they get to the title fight. Like they'll get that like championship match like 2 or 3 times, but every time they get there, they lose. Like they're really good, just not at that level. Exactly.
I feel like for that reason, it's probably time to, I wouldn't say blow it up, but I'd make some changes.
So yeah,
I think there will probably be something happen because it didn't happen yesterday. Probably on maybe something like draft day. You see some of these draft picks getting changed, players getting swapped. So I think it's time for the Clippers to finally do something because they're only getting older and Golden State is only getting better. And San Antonio's always there. Houston's getting better. You have to wonder what New Orleans are going to do now with the Twin Towers, I guess you can call them. So I think it's time to make a change, but we'll have to see what happens. Nothing happened yesterday because our trade deadline was kind of lackluster. We'll talk about the trade deadline, what happened, who got moved, who didn't get moved. Do we agree with what the Celtics did? Should the Pacers have maybe moved Paul George? All that coming up right after the break at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
The NBA trade deadline seems to always disappoint us because, quite honestly, I think it's our fault. We build it up. There's names out there that could have been potentially moved. People like Derrick Rose from the Knicks, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, Blake Griffin, Carmelo Anthony. None of these guys even got dealt anywhere. The biggest trade of the day was the Sixers trading Nerlens Noel to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for Andrew Bogut, Justin Anderson, and a first-round pick. The Sixers are also reportedly going to buy out Andrew Bogut, which would make him a free agent, meaning he can sign with anyone, which, of course, this happens literally every single year with at least one player. We've seen it in the past with guys like Anderson Varejao of last year. It's like they leave this team to get bought out in a trade, then they go to a title contender, because where else would they go?
Right.
So Bogut is reportedly looking at maybe going to San Antonio, to Houston, and even the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yep.
Another guy from Dallas who looks like he may be going to Cleveland is Deron Williams. Deron Williams got waived yesterday by Dallas, and now the ideal landing spot is, of course, Cleveland, because LeBron James has been asking and begging for a playmaker and a backup point guard, and the 32-year-old services are out there for Deron Williams. He can sign basically a mid-level exception and join the Cleveland Cavaliers as the backup there. Would the additions of Bogut and Williams, if they were to both happen, I'd say there's more in the Deron Williams sort of camp as far as the Bogut camp. That makes a lot more sense to me, although they both do. Would those two additions, or even just the Williams one, give LeBron enough, I should say, firepower and what he really wants?
I think with Deron Williams, he's someone who, like, you don't realize that he's doing actually a lot better, because at least with me, I always thought of Deron Williams like great when he was in Utah, and then once that whole thing went to hell.
He's fantastic in Utah, and that's another landing spot that's potential for Williams. But
right.
You'd, of course, rather go to Cleveland to win a title.
Yeah, although to be fair, Utah's the 4th seed in the West, so it's not like they're a terrible, terrible team. But
I mean, the Cavs will have a better chance.
Obviously, they have a much better chance. Would Utah welcome him back? Because don't forget, like, he's basically the one that forced Jerry Sloan out, and Jerry Sloan's kind of a god in Utah. Like he didn't force him out, but like
he was a key contributor in that.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff happening around the time where he was traded, and then Jerry Sloan left soon after. But yeah, like I always thought of him as kind of like a guy that was super talented, super good when he was in Utah, and then once he went to New Jersey / Brooklyn, it kind of fell off, and then he was in Dallas. But even like right now, he's basically, averaging 13 and 7, which, if you're going to have that as your backup, because you're not going to start him over Kyrie, obviously. If you're going to have that as your backup, I mean, that's as good as you can probably hope for. It's not like he's a terrible player. His PER's good enough to where if you put him as the backup, he's the actual point guard of the team, to where Kyrie's kind of the, shooting guard, point guard, Allen Iverson, ish kind of role. But, yeah, I think he would help a lot. I think Bogut, even though Cleveland won the title, like, he'll tell you about the stuff with the Golden State Warriors. Like, he'll explain to you, like, oh, yeah, they like to do this, 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 and this. Like, he can do the whole, like, tell them the secrets of the trade and stuff like that. I think both of them would help out a lot, because you're not going to ask Deron Williams to be a big contributor to the team. You're just going to ask him basically to, like, come in for 15, 20 minutes a game and help run the offense when, Kyrie or whoever needs a blow.
And you could even put he and Kyrie on the floor together. Like, I'm thinking of scenarios. I realize J.R. Smith, when he comes back, he's going to get more minutes.
Sure.
But let's say, for instance, J.R. is kind of struggling. You feel like you're in a comfortable spot. You could put Deron Williams at the 1, Kyrie Irving playing off the ball at the 2. You have Kyle Korver, who's playing really good since he came over from Atlanta. At the 3, you have LeBron at the 4. You have Tristan Thompson or Kevin Love at the 5. Mm-hmm. You have Bogut coming off the bench. I mean, those could be some really, really good additions. And for a team that literally did nothing yesterday, they didn't even make a single move.
No.
They could come out the biggest winners of the whole entire trade deadline, possibly. So I guess you got to say that that's a good move. They didn't have to give up anything, and they could get 2 big contributors. Kevin Love is out right now, so Bogut can step in and be like a rim protector, a physical presence in the middle, something Golden State really missed when he got injured in the finals last year. some people even say he might be the reason they lost the finals, maybe even because of Game 5, Draymond Green got suspended too. But a lot of people will say because Bogut left, the Cavaliers even won the championship. So if you could bring in someone who can add some value like that, that could be a good thing. So I think the Cavaliers should probably make both these moves. They already have the highest money spent in the NBA. Why not just add a little more? Right. I mean, there's really nothing else you can do except bring in these two guys in my eyes, and I think that'd be a great move.
Yeah, the NBA is funny that way. Like we basically, like, to start the year, okay, who's going to make it to the finals? Oh, the Cavs and the Warriors. And then the year goes on, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, look at the Spurs, look how good they are. Oh, look at the Rockets, they're a surprise. Or, oh, look at the Celtics, look at Isaiah Thomas. And then if these moves get made, it's like, oh, right, yeah, cool, Warriors, Cavaliers. Okay, cool, that's the finals again. Like, it's just kind of like a thing we do for a couple months, like, oh, I wonder if this team can do it. And then all these moves happen. It's like, oh, right, they're super talented teams, and they're probably going to make it to the finals again.
And it happens every year. Like I said, we have these guys who get the contracts bought out after they get traded or they get waived or something. And then they're, of course, going to go to the title contenders because they're veteran guys. Deron Williams, 32 years old. He's been on the Olympic team before. He's gotten huge contracts before. The one thing he hasn't accomplished is a championship. So, of course, he's going to chase that. And with Bogut, he's been on a title team before, but he's in the same situation. He's been around forever. He's got his money. Now he wants to just try and stockpile as many rings as he can.
Yeah, exactly.
That's sports. I mean, that happens in baseball, in football, in basketball. It happens all the time. So I don't really have an issue with it. I guess you can say the second biggest trade yesterday was the deal between the Thunder and the Bulls. The Thunder traded Cameron Payne, who's probably known best for his dancing with Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Laverne and Anthony Morrow to the Bulls for Doug McDermott, Taj Gibson, and an unprotected second-round pick. Gibson is going to be a free agent at the end of the year, so that does free up some moves or some money for the Bulls if trying to bring another free agent because they did not trade Jimmy Butler yesterday, although all the speculation about that was surfacing with Boston. Even something like Paul George with the Pacers, he really expressed that he wants to contend for titles. He loves L.A. He's from there. He's going to be a free agent at the end of next season. These guys did not get dealt. Boston didn't make any moves. They obviously have a ton of assets, most assets than any other team in the NBA, because they have the Nets next to unprotected picks. After, what was his name? That Russian guy, Mikhail Prokhorov, right?
Yeah.
After he blew up literally that organization and then got rid of it because he traded first-round picks for an aging Paul Pierce and an aging Kevin Garnett.
And Jason Terry. Don't forget about Jason Terry and that deal. This was going to be a great trade.
So Danny Ainge has the Nets' next two picks. The Nets are the worst team in the NBA. So at worst, that's going to be the fourth pick in the draft if three teams' balls come up in the lottery.
Yeah.
And then next season after that, I mean, the Nets don't have a first-round pick, so they're not bringing anyone in. So I would say they're probably going to have, if not the worst record in the NBA, the second or third. So you're looking at probably at worst the next two drafts, top 5 picks.
Right.
With a team that's already second in the Eastern Conference. You have a couple All-Stars in Al Horford and Isaiah Thomas. Some good pieces around them. Do you think it was smart for the Celtics to not make a move? Or should they have given up some of these picks and acquired another star like Butler or George?
It depends what they were supposed to give back, right? Because I saw stuff where they'd have to give up the Brooklyn pick this year. And then it was kind of like a Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley, Marcus Smart. Like, it was more than just like, oh, give us your Brooklyn pick and one of those players.
Right. A lot more than what the Kings got for Cousins. Let's say that.
Right. Yeah, so it was one of those like multi-layered kind of, deals where it was just like, no, we want like a bunch of people, which if you have Jimmy Butler, Paul George, I even saw Damian Lillard's name thrown out there for whatever reason. Like, if you're going to get rid of these players, you want to ask the world for them because that's what you do if you have the most, talented player in the trade. You ask for the most. And for the Celtics, yeah, they have all the assets, but the problem is it's different like with the Cavs a few years back because when the Cavs had Andrew Wiggins, number 1 pick, and they gave it up for Kevin Love, you kind of understood that because Kevin Love worked. It was kind of like a let's win right now kind of thing. We don't want to wait for Andrew Wiggins to kind of like blossom because, LeBron, even though he's still in his prime, like, this ain't going to last forever. Like, you got another probably like 5-6 years until he kind of goes off that cliff. And with the Celtics, I mean, Isaiah Thomas is pretty young. Yeah, Al Horford's a little bit older, but like, you can, with Lonzo Ball or Markelle Fultz or whoever you decide to basically take with that pick, you have a chance to like keep this going for another decade for something like that. And while Jimmy Butler or Paul George is like a really, really good piece, you don't want to basically like nuke your entire organization if you give up like 2 or 3 of those players plus the pick. Also, there's the fact that once you actually know where the pick is come draft time, whether you're the 4th pick or the 3rd pick or the 1st pick or whatever, then the trade probably comes a little bit more likely maybe, because maybe then if they are the 3rd overall pick and they're like, okay, well, we're not going to get Lonzo Ball or Markelle Fultz, like we're not getting the person that we want, then they might actually trade the pick and say like, okay, we'll give you the 3rd overall pick and Avery Bradley or whatever for player X. I
agree with literally everything you just said. You kind of took the words out of my mouth. I thought all along the Celtics should not make a deal. I realize it's enticing. The temptation is there to add Paul George or Jimmy Butler, guys who are all-stars and are already established players. Because don't get me wrong, I would love the established player over the uncertain rookie every single time. But there's still a little uncertainty, and I'll say especially with Paul George because he is a free agent at the end of next season. Mm-hmm. He hasn't expressed interest in going anywhere with the exception of the Lakers.
Yeah.
So let's say the Celtics give up a lot, because they would have to give up a lot, and it doesn't really work out, and he decides to leave at the end of next season. So you gave up potentially the top pick for a 1.5-year rental.
Exactly.
I don't think that would have been the case. And you mentioned draft day. That's where you could have some more potential. Because day by day, Paul George's value on the trade market is going to go down because his contract is going to be shorter and shorter.
Right.
So potentially you could get him for cheaper on draft day if you give up whatever pick you have, number 2, number 3, number 1, whatever. But for me, I love that the Celtics didn't make a move because you touched on it a little bit, LeBron James and the Cavaliers. LeBron James is 32 years old. He's been in the league 14 years now. If you count all of his playoff experience, you can pretty much factor in he's played another 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like he's a 16-year veteran. I really think LeBron James is going to turn into Kobe Bryant. I hate to say this, but maybe like 36, 37 years old, that body's going to wear down and he's going to be done and he's going to be injured.
Might be before that. We kind of talked about that like a couple weeks ago or something like that. Like the amount of minutes he's put up is about a season or 2 away from what Kobe was when his ACL or Achilles blew. Like, yeah, eventually your body can only go through so many minutes before it's just like, okay, yeah, we're done.
Exactly. So I think Danny Ainge and the Celtics are definitely thinking about the future because LeBron James, I'd say at the most, has 5 legit seasons left to win a title where he's the contributing factor.
Right.
So with the Celtics, you have Thomas, who's young. Al Horford's probably on the tail end of his prime, but is still capable of putting up really good seasons for the next 5 years, I'd say.
Right.
You could potentially bring in a future all-star who's in college right now. You're going to have the number 1 pick or number 2, whatever, next year, so you can maybe look at someone like, I don't know who's in high school now. It's going to be the number 1 pick. But
Your boy LaMelo?
No, LiAngelo. It'd be LiAngelo.
Oh, LiAngelo.
LaMelo's still a sophomore. Like, I know there's this guy named Zion Williams.
Oh, the dude that dunked from heck far away.
I'm not sure if I'm not sure about the math. I think he's like the class of 2018, so I don't...
So that's what...
Would that...
Next year?
That'd be 2 years from now he'd be
next
in the
year,
NBA?
because 2017. Yeah, so like next year, so he's a junior right now. So,
yes.
So in 2 years, he'd be in the draft.
So potentially you have a case there. He looks fantastic, at least from a dunking standpoint.
Right.
But you could potentially have the next 2 number 1 picks to already build around a couple of all-stars and some decent role players. And Danny Ainge has done a great job of drafting. And the guy who's really unmentioned in this whole thing is Jaylen Brown, who they drafted number 3 out of Cal this season.
Right.
So if he can blossom, you could potentially have the next 3 young, great players to go along with a couple of young. They're thinking about the future.
Right.
And LeBron James is not going to be around for the future. His time is now. Isaiah Thomas and Al Horford and whoever they bring in time is 3 years down the road. And they set themselves up, as you said, for the next decade to be contending in the Eastern Conference. So I really thought it was a great move to not make a trade. I realize it's tempting, and the chance is still there later in the season and start of next season. But I thought it was a good idea to stay put and not do anything.
Yeah.
So we'll take our last break of the show. After the break, we're going to be talking about some NFL news. Rob Gronkowski says that there's no doubt he's ready to play for next season. But can we really trust him? We'll talk about that and more after the break here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Do You want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do. All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
So Rob Gronkowski is telling the media, that there's no doubt he'll be ready for the start of the 2017 season. Of course, Gronk missed 8 games during the season. He had his 3rd back surgery this offseason. He's missed time with the arm, with the hamstring, collapsed lung at one point after last season's game against Denver. The guy's just had a plethora of injury issues. And for how talented he is, he's only 27 years old. So he's not even really old. I mean, he's just young in his NFL career, maybe just really getting into maybe his prime years at the tight end position. But the guy simply just cannot stay healthy. He says he's ready, but can you really trust him to be there all year long?
No. Short answer, no. Because he always gets hurt. And maybe it's his fault, maybe it's not his fault. He does seem to get taken down at the knees a lot of times, but then he also has like back injuries and stuff like that. So it's probably like a little bit of both with him. But, I mean, yeah, long the short, no, you can't trust him to stay healthy. They won a Super Bowl basically without him this year. They made it to a Super Bowl in 2011, I think, basically without him. Like, he made it back for that game, but there's been multiple seasons where he hasn't played the entire season. I don't think he's actually played a whole 16-game season in a little bit. Like, he's somebody who all the time, you're basically hoping that he can stay healthy for, just call it 13 games, something like that. You don't ever expect 16 games from him. You just hope it's enough to where, whether you're in fantasy football or just a fan of the team, that, like, he can maneuver through the entire season and stay healthy. Like, he's super, super, super talented. I mean, the dude has 68 touchdowns in only, 7 seasons. So, just that alone, he's just insanely talented, but he hasn't played 16 games since 2011.
Call me crazy here, and this might sound a little weird,
right?
But I had this same thought when Derrick Rose was going through his injury debacle with the Bulls. After he won the MVP, then tore his ACL, then tore his meniscus after that year.
Mm-hmm.
I said I would trade Derrick Rose right then and there because I just can't trust this guy can stay healthy. The market for him is probably huge. I would get what I could.
Mm-hmm.
Call me crazy here, and I think this might not really make a whole lot of sense because Tom Brady is 39 years old.
Sure.
And he has, I'd say at most, 3 years left, although Brady has really done a good job of fighting Father Time.
Yeah.
You still have Garoppolo, and that is kind of up in the air as far as where's that going to go. But call me crazy, I would entertain the option, or at least see what's out there in the market, of trading Gronkowski. Because I cannot simply trust that he's going to stay healthy. He's getting injured at key, I guess you could say, parts on the body. Back surgery. He's had 3 back surgeries now.
3 of them.
That's a really, really big part of an NFL player's body is your back. And the tight end position, which is physical. Gronkowski is probably the most physical pass-catching player in the NBA. Or, I'm sorry, not the NBA. We're talking so much NBA, I'm getting confused. In the NFL. I would entertain the option of at least seeing what's out there for Gronkowski. Because if he's healthy, he's a Hall of Famer. He's simply that good. The Patriots won the Super Bowl this year without him. He missed 8 games. He missed start of the season, played a little bit, and then missed the end. So you basically got there without him. 2 years ago, you got there really without him. 2011, you got there without him. And I realize a lot of that's Brady and sort of the Patriots' mindset and just the system, organization, and all.
Sure.
But I'd see what you could get out there. There's at least a first-rounder in there, if not more, for Gronk. Martellus Bennett played good last year. You could always add people because it's New England. You're going to chase, obviously, titles. I would look at what you could get in the market for him because I don't think he can stay healthy, and you could get something for him while you can.
I don't disagree with you. It's just the problem of, and I guess this argument isn't fully valid because they just won the title basically without him. I think he's still, even though you have Edelman and Amendola and Hogan and White and everybody else on that team, he's kind of the guy that basically like makes defenses kind of like have to respect certain aspects of it, right? And don't get me wrong, Bennett helped that also when he was on the field too. But I think just having him there and another tight end, right? If you have another kind of, not even decoy tight end, but someone else who's obviously not at his level, but somebody who's going to be someone you have to worry about, because Bennett you have to worry about. You can't just let him be open. Brady will pick him apart and get a bunch of 100-yard games with him if you do that. But I think he's just mentally important to the Patriots. And I mean mentally in the sense of like the defensive coordinator has to just basically be like, okay, we have to at least throw someone, maybe even a safety up top, just to like, worry about Gronk, and that matters to help other people get open, because once you take that away, then all of a sudden the defense could just be like, okay, we're going to take away Edelman. Okay, you 2 on him, he's done. Okay, Amendola, we'll see if, you can do stuff or whatever. Gronk kind of like helps the math out with that, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. The Patriots kind of do that, Ty Law, Richard Seymour, anybody you can basically
even recently
name.
Chandler Jones and Jamie Collins.
Exactly.
They're a year ahead of everyone.
Yeah.
I honestly would entertain the option of looking at what's out there, because I can't trust he's going to stay healthy, and you might want to just cut your losses. You're already winning without him.
You get a first-round pick for Garoppolo. You get a second-round pick for Gronk.
Jimmy Garoppolo played a game and a half, and he didn't have Gronkowski, and he looked okay. If that's your option going forward or not, we'll have to wait and see. But I would entertain the option of looking elsewhere, because I can't trust he's going to stay healthy.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Another thing I can't trust is Vince Young's legitimacy of trying to come back as an NFL quarterback. So last week on the show, actually it was a week ago today, we talked about how Madden kind of trolled Vince Young a little bit about him trying to come back. But now Vince Young has submitted an application to the United States Patent and Trademark Offices trying to trademark the phrase "Make Vince Great Again." Come on, are you kidding me? Like, how silly... Okay, so one thing I have to sort of say about this is I take this literally with a grain of salt, because I think Vince Young's basically trying to just get his name out there. He's trying to come back, and that's good and all, but he hasn't played since 2011. I don't think anyone's going to take a legit look at him. And he's also taking a spin off of Donald Trump, Make America Great Again, which he's been probably the most polarized presidential candidate ever. So you're taking a spin-off on that, so it's almost like you're kind of like agreeing with it almost, going along with it. I don't know what he's doing here.
It doesn't help his cause. Not anywhere close to helping his cause. He was already, 3% chance of making it back to the NFL?
3?
If that.
I'd give him about as much of a chance as Lloyd Christmas would, so you're telling me there's a chance?
I mean, yeah. But... there was a small chance of him making it back to the NFL. Because NFL teams always love to talk about distractions and, this is going to be a distraction and this and that, and, we can't trust you and this and that, especially if you're the quarterback. This doesn't help the cause. This is basically going to have people say, like, same old Vince Young, not caring about football, not being mentally focused, like every other kind of, like, cliche kind of thing you want to say about it. Is it a big deal? No. It's just him wanting to trademark whatever. That's fine. Brady's throwing videos on Instagram of him skiing and almost, breaking his arm.
Shoulder.
Right. And, it's not that big of a deal, but it's a bad look.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's one of those things where it's just like, is this like a big on a 1 to 10 deal? No. But this is going to help your cause? No. It's also, going to be something where every media pundit that's going to be like, he's not, determined and he's letting his teammates down, does he even care about football? Those kind of things that people like to talk about. And I think that's probably too far. But at the same time, there's better things you could have done. Like at least just like lie to us, right?
Yeah, I'm just not sure where he's going with this. Like, I think it's kind of silly. I think he's just trying to get his name out there, get him more recognized. I'm sure he'll maybe eventually have some sort of open workout or something to try and show scouts and GMs that he's ready to play again, but I don't take this literally seriously at all, and it's just kind of silly to me. So before we end the show, we have a little bit of breaking news into the show, and that is Philadelphia Sixers first-round pick from this year, Ben Simmons. It's been confirmed by Jerry Colangelo, the GM, that he is not going to be playing this season. He will miss the rest of the season. Of course, he hasn't played yet into his rookie year. I feel like he could be ready. They talked about him getting ready, but I feel like they're kind of just holding him out for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're still in that tanking mode a little bit, process. We talked about it a little bit. If the Sixers have a better record than the Kings, they could basically swap those picks, part of the Nick Stauskas deal a couple years back. So they're trying to lose as many games as they can, as are the Kings. So, of course, you have to make sure you lose games. So a guy who could really contribute in Simmons, let's not put him on the floor to lose games. But I feel like also there's a little bit of what they're doing with Embiid here, and that's making sure that this injury and injury concerns don't stay there forever. The Sixers aren't playing Embiid on back-to-back nights. He's really come back and played fantastic in his rookie season, even though he's been in the league 3 years now, because he's battled so many injuries for the first couple of years, even going back to Kansas.
Right.
So I feel like they're doing the same thing with Simmons. They're being careful, but they're also trying to lose games. So Ben Simmons, the number 1 overall pick from the draft last season, will not play this whole entire season for the Sixers. I'm a little disappointed. I want to see what he would do, but he'll be back next year. And you have he and Embiid to build around. I guess you have Jahlil Okafor now, who's in a better situation because Noel is gone.
Dario Saric.
You have Dario Saric, who has played good as well, can really stretch the floor as a big man. And then you're going to get another good pick this year. And they've done well drafting the last couple of years. You got to give them a little credit for that. So
yeah, no, they're definitely a team that, like, why would you play Ben Simmons this year? Like, honestly, why? Like, it's not like you're going to make the playoffs. You're basically just going to bring him back for 20, 25 games, see what he can do, and maybe you get him re-injured. Like, just put him back on the shelf. He'll come back next year with his actual rookie year, like kind of how Joel Embiid's a rookie this year and might win Rookie of the Year. It's one of those things where it's just like there's no real point to do it. Because it isn't like baseball where you can play like 5 games or whatever and then just go back and kind of like dip back and forth. Like, just put him on the bench, let him learn from people, let him get, the full rehab, everything, all working at 100% capacity. Then with the start of next year, you have whoever your top probably like 5 or 6 pick is. You have, like you said, Embiid, him, Saric. You have all these kind of things, not in place because it's not like it's going to be a great team next year, but at least you have something to build off of. And then from the start of next year, go see what it's like. Because you can only play this whole, trust the process thing for so long. It's been going now for, 5-6 years? Like, you can only do it for so long. Eventually you have to, actually start trying to do stuff. And they have enough blue-chip talents. Like, Ben Simmons was number 1 overall. Embiid was, a top 5 pick. Saric was, a higher draft pick that they stole from Europe. And then they're going to have another probably top 5, top 6, 7, 8 pick this year. Like, that's enough to just, start winning. And poor Brett Brown. I feel bad for him.
I thought he's done a good job.
He's done fine. Like, it's one of the things.
Everyone laughed when he got hired. Like, who in the heck is Brett Brown to be the coach? But, he's done well. They won 10 games off last year. They've already won 19 at the All-Star break.
He's basically the guy going into, a house that's just, he needs to renovate 100%, and every time he, fixes up a room, another,
the other room, the sink collapses. Right. It starts flooding, so he has to refix that.
Yeah, there's just, these little fires he has to put out in every single room. It's just oh, mother, all right, so I got this. Oh, why is the sink leaking? Oh, that. Oh, why is there a fire in the corner? Just always going over trying to fix everything else like that. And, you can't judge him with his record because they're trying to lose on purpose. So he's just out there all right, can we get 25 wins? Is that a thing? Nope, we're going to get 19? All right, well, I tried.
It's still up in the air. I'm looking at a mock draft right now. So the Sixers have the 5th worst record in the league. So let's just say they get the 5th pick.
Sure.
This mock draft has them taking Dennis Smith. He's a freshman from NC State. Reminds a lot of guys of that explosive point guard, that Derrick Rose, Kyrie Irving type. Really, really quick. Got a lot of acceleration, a lot of athleticism as well. So, you have a point guard to build around a couple of big men, and you have Simmons, who's technically big, but will probably play the 3 in the NBA. So that wouldn't be too bad if things go according to plan. But it's just another thing that Brett Brown and company have to deal with. So Ben Simmons not going to play this whole entire season. He's out for the rest of the season. All right, guys, that's going to be it for the end of the show. I'd like to thank you for listening. It's Friday. We'll lead you into the weekend. Hope you have a great weekend and a great day. My name is Ben Brown.
And I'm Anthony Bertacci.
Have a good day, guys. Thank you. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next time on Monday here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.